Thank you very much, Mrs McVeigh, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairship. This petition, Madam Chair, calls for debates to be held between MPs and university students, as the Honourable Member has just highlighted, to discuss reducing university fees to £3,000. Now, considering over 1,800 of my Slough constituents have called for this debate, we might struggle to facilitate this particular demand in Slough, which, by the way, is the youth capital of Britain, the town or city with the lowest average age. But I think this petition points to a particular issue we have today with higher education. Students, our own constituents, do not feel listened to. For years, government and universities have skyrocketed fees at will without listening to students and robbing them of a voice on a matter which will impact them for the rest of their lives. They simply don't feel heard. So today I will focus my speech on ensuring their voices are at the forefront and would encourage the Minister and her department to listen very carefully to that voice. When fees were introduced in 1998, they stood at £1,000. But now, as we know, they have risen to an eye-watering £9,250, with university fees last at £3,000 in 2005. Whilst government anticipated that their grand plans to triple fees in 2012 would create a market in fees, in reality, almost all universities began charging the maximum amount, in part due to government-backed loans and lack of incentive to offer anything lower. And whilst the early fears of a reduction in applications allayed, after nearly a decade of these new fees being introduced, it quite clearly has created another crisis, one for recent graduates, which has meant, unsurprisingly, students' expectations for what a university course provides, both during their studies and once they graduate, has also risen alongside their fees. And considering the decision to go to university, which for many is taken at 17, is one which will have a financial impact for decades to come, I don't blame them. And the perceived benefits seem to be waning. A third of working-age graduates are not in high-skilled employment. Almost half of parents would prefer their child to take up a vocational qualification ahead of university. And in 2020, for the second consecutive year, the rate of graduate employment actually fell. A problem which has only been compounded for graduates entering an extremely difficult job market over the past 2 years. Indeed, many of these conversations around fees were reignited by the pandemic as students question the value for money of online classes. Between September and December 2020, half of students reported that moving fully to online learning would have a negative impact on their academic experience. And a third have indicated that their courses are and were poor or very poor value for money. Indeed, the astronomical fees and subsequent debts force students to evaluate whether a graduation gift of an average debt of £45,900 is actually worth it. And that is without considering the cost pressures of accommodation, those who for religious reasons are unable to take an interest loan, as my honourable friend has just noted, and the mental health pressures of university studies. And even after all of this, the government's own calculations indicate, Madam Chair, that only 25% of current full-time undergraduates actually expect to pay off this debt in full. I'm sure the Minister will note that the set thresholds and time limits on these debt repayments, how everyone is treated equally under the system, but I'm afraid that's simply not true. Not only have the government already moved the goalposts on repayment agreements, but they're set to do it again. In fact, most recent reports indicate that ministers plan on reducing the salary threshold for loan repayments to below £25,000. This, alongside a rise in national insurance, is an unforgivable squeeze on lower and middle earners, whilst leaving wealthier students largely unaffected. No wonder current students and graduates are concerned about the impact their studies will have on their future. So I ask the Minister today, what guarantees will she make to students that they will be listened to, that their concerns about loans, repayments and debt will be taken seriously? Education, Mrs. McVeigh, has the potential to change people's lives and provide a better future. It shouldn't limit people's prospects before their adult lives have even begun. Thank you very much.